I think actors, musicians, and everything else, they're so caught up in their craft. And you kind of have to do that to succeed. But I think it's so important to really cherish and really love the things outside of the acting world. Whatever it is, just really have a love outside of the craft, because you need it.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. On today's episode, we have actor Victor Cordova on with us. He's a great guy, a friend of mine. He's worked on some really cool projects over the years, and he's also a really good singer. He was in a boy band back in the 90s. They had a track on the Coyote Ugly soundtrack that went platinum. So he's had some cool experiences, and he talks about some of those and some of the things that inspired him to be an actor, and what it's like being an actor and an entrepreneur. So anyway, it was a great episode. We had a lot of fun. He's a really good dude, so I hope you guys enjoy it. If you enjoy the show, then be sure to like and subscribe. We really appreciate the support. And here you go. What was the name of your band?
Rare Blend.
Rare Blend. You guys had a song that was on the Coyote Ugly soundtrack that went platinum.
On the Coyote soundtrack. That was that was the one thing that the record company did for us, and I think it was only just so we could pay back all the money that we had accrued up until that point. So we had been on that label for about 8 years with label mates like Tim McGraw, Leanne Rimes, the Judds. I mean, it was all country, and we were an R&B band group on there. So
strange.
It was really weird. Yeah, it was a great story about that. We ended up driving from San Diego to Atlanta in 30 hours when I was a kid, and we got invited to a showcase in Atlanta, and we were going to go to the Underground. It's a mall that's underground. We had to get there, though. There was no way around it. We had to get their showcase, and the manager at the time that was giving us a shot was Outkast manager. Her name was Mia, and she said, just be here. If you want a shot, be here to perform in front of Sony and Jermaine Dupri. We got there, and it's in the Underground. I had never traveled to the East Coast, so when I get to Atlanta and we get to this underground mall, I'm used to R&B. I'm used to being around African-American people. That's all it was in there. It was just people swarming, just a lot of African-American people in the industry that are all very soulful, urban. And here we are, a white guy. I'm like Latin and a black guy in a multicultural group having to sing in front of all these people and sing R&B. We were petrified. We're like, oh, my God. I can tell you this, too, out of that experience. Before us, it was a group by the name of Jagged Edge, and they were a very big R&B group. Yep. And they ended up getting signed that weekend by Jermaine Dupri. They performed before us. We were all in the same group, so we were all friends. We were all being groomed out of Atlanta, out of the same area. They got booed. They literally got booed off the stage. We come up, and at the time, we were called Caution at the time. We weren't even Rare Blend. And when we come up, they just call us out as the California Boys, because we were a throwaway group. It was like, these guys are like not even black. They're just here. They're from California. What do they know? And we killed it. We got a standing ovation. We had Sony talking to us that day. We had a meeting the next day with Jermaine Dupri. And Jermaine Dupri just wasn't looking for a multicultural group. He was looking for an all-black group to compete with the likes of like Boyz II Men and 112 and all those groups that were out. Yeah. So we missed signing with Jermaine Dupri like this much. But luckily, in that showcase, we had the manager that ended up picking us up and then signing us to Curb Records. So literally within 2 weeks of that showcase, that's how quickly we got our deal. Yeah. So
it's crazy how back then there were so many gatekeepers, and today artists are so free to produce their own work, and you can really produce your own stuff through YouTube and get heard.
It's a totally different landscape when it comes to music. I mean, the more you do for yourself, the more you know, the better. I mean, it's just the way it works now.
Yeah, if you can build up your own audience and build up your own fan base, if you do sign with someone, you have a lot of leverage.
Definitely. I've been asked by people, because people are aware that I had a platinum record. I was signed to something like that, and they always ask me, like, what's your best advice as far as music and everything else? And I'll be honest with you. I'll tell them this: go into acting. Go into acting, because music is it's against the artist. Unless you own the rights to your songs, unless you're writing the songs, you don't make any money off of it. It's all the record company will make the money. The songwriter makes the money. As the artist, you don't make anything. we're probably a worse story than TLC. We literally, when I left my record label, when they sent me my goodbye letter, and mind you, I was on a triple platinum record with Coyote Ugly. I still owe them to this day like $1,075.
Wow.
To this day, I still get a royalties letter that says you still owe us money. Get out of my royalties, get it? You know, it's.
Yeah.
But it's just a shame. It's just
How
a
much
shame.
money did they make off that song?
I think our cut from that would have been like almost $1.5 million to split between 3 guys in the group, and they accrued it all back. And then the writers of the song and everyone else got the rest of the money. So there was a lot of money. We just didn't see any of it.
Wow.
That's just the way it works. I got a nice platinum record for it, though. So.
That's cool, I guess.
I mean,
it is cool. No,
it's cool.
It's on the resume.
And I got to do a lot of things. I got to travel. Like I got to go to
Yeah.
Japan. I did a tour in Japan. I did some tours in the United States. So I did get something out of it.
Still sucks though that they didn't
Still
give you
sucks that I didn't get
least
any
some of
money.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you're a good actor though.
Thank you. I appreciate
And
it.
it's a great talent. It's great, as an actor, it's good to be able to sing, to have extra.
I've never yet have used my singing abilities as an actor, though.
Yeah.
I've had my agent even ask me, like, she'll sometimes like go through my Instagram. I sang at a wedding, and I sang a song by Ed Sheridan, and it was a good friend of mine, his daughter's wedding, and I ended up learning that song and learning an Italian verse for it too. So. And it was great. It was really done nicely, but my agent had no idea that I could sing.
Is that with Ed Sheeran and Andrea Bocelli?
Yep,
Yeah,
that one.
I'm watching Bocelli this Friday in Charlotte. My second time.
He's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah.
It's an awesome song. Ed Sheeran's okay. I love Bocelli though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I like Ed Sheeran too, yeah.
that song in particular, perfect. It's just so many people love that song for their wedding. So when they asked, "Is that something that you can do? Is that something in your wheelhouse?" And I said, "Sure, definitely, I can do that. That's not a problem."
Have you ever seen Ed Sheeran loop all the instruments? Like he'll play all the instruments and loop them together and then play and sing. He's an incredible artist.
He's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
but I mean, Bocelli's.
Something about Bocelli. His son Matteo is, and that whole family is talented, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, classical.
Matteo's got a song called "Solo," I think, that's probably my favorite that he does. And then he's got some that I kind of think, no offense, Matteo, they're kind of shit, and I don't enjoy them. I don't know if it's because they're in English, right, and it just lacks something. Maybe.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly.
Solo's good. I feel like somebody's got him and they're trying to turn him into like this solo Justin Timberlake boy bandish kind of. It's just a different vibe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it, but. Huge fan of I don't know what it is, the tone, the richness, and Bocelli's Andrea's voice.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. So this will be got front row tickets for myself, my mother and father, and my wife.
Awesome.
So
good.
Yeah, bought them as soon as they announced it. I don't know. It's probably been like 7-8 months ago.
Oh,
but yeah,
that's gonna be a great concert. Enjoy.
I'm looking forward to it.
Some of the greatest singing techniques come out of Italy, don't they?
Out of what now?
Out of Italy.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. I mean, I was so young, I didn't know what I was doing, to be quite honest with you. I took maybe 1 or 2 vocal classes, and that was it. And it was just
natural.
Just throw me in there. Just throw me in, coach.
How young were you when you started singing, and what was it that drew you into that?
I want to say that I learned how to sing when I was probably in 4th grade. I auditioned for a school play, and I to this day, I mean, I remember it was Oliver Twist of all plays, and I went for I auditioned for the lead, and it was for Junior Starlight. One of the directors for Junior Starlight, Tom Rush, who passed away, I think about maybe 5-6 years ago. Anyways, he's a big known director for Junior Starlight in San Diego, so they had good shows come through there. And he, for whatever reason, came to our school and I went to a Catholic school, and he wanted to do a huge production of Oliver Twist. But the school is predominantly Hispanic, and so I was like, I'd seen the movie when I was a kid, and I knew what it was about, but they said, yeah, go ahead and audition for it, and I think that's where I started. I learned how to sing. I heard one of the songs, I learned how to sing, and then I guess a little bit of the acting came through there, and that's where I kind of got hooked for a little while, was from that. That was my origins.
That's cool. You're from San Diego, right?
I am from San Diego, born and raised. Yeah.
So what was your childhood like? in San Diego?
Man, childhood was like, I always felt like I was in the wrong neighborhood, put it that way. I lived in a really rough neighborhood, and I know everyone says, oh, San Diego, it's so pretty and beautiful. Yeah, there's some really not so really nice neighborhoods in San Diego when you go into the inner city. Not so much now because of how they've
gentrification.
Yeah, gentrification and just how everything goes up in price but back when I was a kid, it was not a good neighborhood to grow up in. A lot of gangs. Everything you saw on the movies like American Me, like where you're initiating members into the gang and they're getting beat up by gang. I would see that across the street from me at the elementary school. Like there'd be lines of gang members just beating up on guys, and that's how they got jumped in. So that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. But I always, for whatever reason, I just knew I wasn't from that. I was an athlete. I was a performing artist. I was, that's what I was. So whatever my parents did to keep me out of that, God bless them, but.
Were both your parents together back then?
Oh yeah, they're still together. Still together to this day. Yeah, still
cool.
together to
They
this
still
day.
live there, or they here with you?
No, they still live in Chula Vista, which is near San Diego. But yeah, they're still out there. Yeah.
What brought you to North Carolina from there?
I think by the time I turned 35, and it was right about the time that I got my letter from the record company just saying, hey, bye-bye, we're done. Our relationship's over. I think I was 35, maybe 34, and I just kind of told myself, listen, I've traveled a lot, but I have never experienced living on the East Coast. And my real job, and I think Neil knows, my real job is I'm a PI, I'm a private investigator. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of private investigating for work comp injuries and stuff, but I get to do that from home. So I'm not the guy that runs around with the video camera. I tell people, this is the person we need a video.
Oh, okay.
So the fact that I'm working from home, I can literally live anywhere I want. And I started to learn real quickly, number one, I didn't like the politics of California. Number two,
taxes.
The taxes and the expenses of living in California. If you're not living on the beach, then what are you there for? All around the country, there's Walmarts, there's Targets, or whatever. There's fast food. So I just made the decision.
Places.
Yeah, I just made the decision. Let me research 3 spots that I was really interested in possibly living in, which was Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, and Charlotte. We went to Austin, Texas. I liked the music scene, but I wasn't really going to be in music anymore.
Yeah.
Came to Charlotte, and I fell in love with Charlotte, and then I didn't even make it to Atlanta. I said, we're just going to come to Charlotte.
Charlotte's a cool town. I like Charlotte.
Yeah, I love Charlotte. It's really cool. It's you got pro teams. You got a couple pro teams out here. It's not too saturated with people.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit more saturated but back when I was here, though, it was nice. So that's what brought me out. I just wanted to experience what it was like to live on the East Coast.
Charlotte has a real LA feel to it for some reason.
It has the uptown reminds me a lot of San Diego's gas lamp area. Okay. It really does. Like when I went through there in the evening, I was like, this is like San Diego. So, but I'm paying half the price. So let me live here.
I was gonna say, I think you're good for another 10 years price wise.
Yeah,
it's going to climb, but
yeah,
it's also good predictive if you're looking at it from a financial point of view. Like I compare a lot of things to like Lake Tahoe. I live on Lake Norman.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at their models and their pricing and looking at their population and our growth rate and going, okay, well, at some point my price should intersect with theirs.
Yeah.
10, 12 years, and I can kind of go, okay, well, this is going to be worth X.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can make some decisions based off that, not based off the current climate.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm not sure if I'm going to actually end up purchasing. We're probably going to purchase a home in the next 6 or 7 months, but right now we're kind of looking at Gastonia area just to get more land. I've always liked to have a little bit more land.
Same here, man. I'm looking at properties out of the city, too. I'm tired of living around a lot of people.
I was always so concerned about, let me be close to Charlotte. Let me be close to, and I probably go into the inner city maybe a dozen times during the year. It's about it. I go see a game or whatever. That's it. I don't necessarily need to be 15 minutes away anymore.
No, right. I live in Mooresville, and the only negative, obviously, just like Gastonia, a suburb of Charlotte, and Gastonia is just not as developed as like Huntersville, Cornelius, Mooresville,
Exactly.
etc. Gastonia to me is more like Troutman, which is north of Mooresville, but it's closer to Charlotte, so it's got the best of both worlds.
Yes.
And west side of the lake, but I like Gastonia, and it's a growing area, but you've still got large tracts of land you can buy too.
Exactly,
So.
and that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for something we can get in now and get a little bit of land. That's it.
That's cool.
That's all you're looking for.
You're not going to have it for much longer, just because if you watch, I watch those markets religiously. 3 o'clock in the morning, that's what I'm doing every day.
Yeah.
But Gastonia, if you're starting to see that there are still a lot of them, but they're
starting to dwindle.
They are dwindling.
Yeah, they're starting to dwindle.
Whereas you come on the other side of the lake, and literally, good luck if you find one.
I've stopped looking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So and if you do find one, it's there's one right now that I know of that's like 34 acres, and it's $6.5 million. Because what they've done is they went in and they've got it all to be subdivisions. Yeah. Right. And so now they're saying this is the valuation because you can break it up.
You can break it up. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is a good investment
Sure.
if you
Make
got
a lot
the
more
money.
than $6 million on it.
But you want.
I'm not looking for something like that.
No. Well, if you're wanting it for a single family home, though, just a nice little 20, 30 acre for you and your family, that makes no sense.
No,
Not at that price point.
I mean, maybe if you're a billionaire, you just love that piece of property.
Yeah.
There
It's
you go.
surrounded by other. True, but.
That'd be the only reason.
Yeah. If I'm going to spend that, I'm the billionaire, I'm just going to buy a couple of lake lots and call it a day.
There you go. Go to the sanctuary. Build yourself something nice out there.
Yeah.
So you'll be fine.
So what's the business aspect of the music industry and how old were you when you signed?
I want to say that I was probably about 19.
What were you doing for money back then? Like, what was your job?
I was a backup dancer.
Oh.
That's what I did.
Okay.
Because I lived in San Diego, and right by San Diego's Tijuana. And so when the hot artist of the time on the Latin scene would come in through the Tijuana nightclubs, we would get hired, and we were, I don't know, I think we were like 15, 16 years old, and we would do backup dancing. They'd get us into the club. It was real hush-hush. Get us into the club, pay us cash, and then get you out. I mean, and it wasn't until like maybe we turned 17 that we kind of started to get wise and start saying, okay, if we're going to dance for so-and-so, we want to at least stay and dance. We're not going to drink, we're not going to drink. But that's what it was, and that's where I started. I was a background dancer. I guess, I got the bug from that, and then I started thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. I get $800 to do this as a kid. What's that guy making right there, And I mean, so it was natural. I just started gravitating towards wanting to be in a singing group.
That's cool. It's funny when you hear like famous songs and a lot of their like you'll hear like backup singers and stuff, and you're thinking about how much money this artist made off this song and how little those backup studio artists got paid.
Nothing.
It's insane.
It's a session fee. It's like it's like what we do as an act. I mean, I don't want to say that we don't get paid, but as an actor, you go in for the day, you get paid your SAG, whatever. If you get on a SAG project,
we get paid pretty well though.
Yeah.
That's one thing about acting. It's hard to get the roles, but if you get a guest spot, a guest star role, you get paid really well.
Yeah,
I mean,
for the
nothing
day.
like what the recurring cast makes. But
that's what I'm saying. For the day, you get paid, and that's kind of like a background singer. For the day, you get paid.
It doesn't pay for all the work you've put into it.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's more for your family to see that you're actually doing something.
Right. Yeah. It's just like a progress report.
Yeah. There's not that awkward. That awkward conversation of that's my son and he's an actor.
Yeah.
What have you been on? For a while I'd be like I haven't been on anything. So.
But I really am doing
the work.
I'm
really working. I'm really working towards something great, though. So
it's the same story with any artist.
Yeah, it's how people look at it. If you haven't accomplished something quickly, then you're not really doing it. And so that stuff doesn't happen quickly.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah. When you, what was the first acting gig that you got?
The first. Besides extra work, and I not to discredit extra work, because that's where you kind of learn a little bit of like the cadence on set, and I definitely suggest any new actor to do extra work just so you get the experience of it. But my first acting job, and I was nervous for it, was on Resurrection. I got to work with Omar Epps.
Oh, cool.
He was a pleasure to work with, and but it was a show about the people coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
And that
It was a good show, yeah.
And I was a gardener on there. Bob Clark. I still remember the audition to this day. I got the audition and I said, Bob Clark. I'm not white. I'm more like Francisco. Like I should be Francisco the gardener. And my agent was like, just do it.
Yeah.
You might be the alternative selection that the producers may want. And I, to this day, I am so grateful. I remember talking to the Fincannons, to Craig and them, because they're the ones that cast me for that. And I did a meet and greet after I'd already filmed
That's cool.
the
Wow.
part. And they were talking to, and if you've ever had a meet and greet with the Fincannons, they wouldn't take you one-on-one. They'd bring you in 3 at a time.
Oh,
They were
wow.
just that busy. And I remember me being there, and then he's like, so it's so nice to meet you. And I said, I didn't come here to meet you. What I wanted to do is I wanted to shake your hand and say thank you, because that part actually paid for some of my daughter's college at the time. And we needed that money, so to get her on, get her going and get her into the dorm. So he was just surprised, and he was like, "So you came to do a meet and greet just to thank me?" And I said, "Yeah, I wanted to make sure that you understood what it meant to me to get that role." And ever since then, we've had a very good relationship. They're the ones that actually booked me for The Walking Dead. So
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Not bad people to have a good relationship.
not
with.
people to
Yeah.
have a good relationship.
It's always
with.
nice to say thank you and show that
Yeah.
gratitude. And
Yeah. I remember the two other actors in there were just so nervous. They're like, "Oh, I'm meeting the Fincannons, and I want to impress them." And I was literally, and they could tell, like, I was not scared, I was not nervous, and they were like, "So why are you here?" And I was like, "I'm here to thank you."
Yeah, you weren't
Yeah,
trying to
they're
get
just
anything
people.
out of it.
No, I wasn't. I just
Yeah.
wanted to give them the thanks, and I think that really made a big impression on them. So that was
Yeah,
nice.
I think one of the Fincannons booked me on The Walking Dead also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's it's a weird story for The Walking Dead. I used to love the show. I watched the first season like religiously, and then I don't know what it is for me, and it could be other actors as well. As soon as I get an audition for the show, I no longer want to watch the show. It just takes the appeal away from, and I don't know what it is. Like there's very few shows that I think House of Cards was one that I got a couple auditions, and I wanted to finish out the series. But once I started getting auditions for Walking Dead, I didn't even want to watch the show anymore. And honestly, with that, I ended up getting auditions for The Walking Dead for almost 4 or 5 years before they actually offered me the role of Warrior Number 4, like Seth said. They actually offered it to me, and they said, based on this audition, this audition, and this audition, we're offering you this role. I was like,
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, okay.
So were you one of the saviors?
I was a whisper walker, and that was a funny story too. I remember, because you're supposed to keep everything on the down low when you book something. And I remember just thinking to myself, I made it. I booked The Walking Dead. Like every actor that I know wants to get on The Walking Dead.
Great credit to have. Yeah.
It's a show to be on. It's a great credit to have.
TV, yeah.
Prestige. Right? So then I get the script, and then I get to set, and then they're like getting me ready, and they're like, "Yeah, you got lines." I go, "Great, I got lines." There's only one thing. You got to wear a mask. And I'm going, wait a minute. Well, how do I tell people that I've been on this show? Like, how are they going to see me? How are they going to? And they're like, well, "You're a whisper walker. You got to wear a mask." And I had to literally just I used to wear, and it busted 2 days ago, but I used to wear this Grateful band that I had that just said grateful, and just to remind me, be grateful. And I had to look at the band and go, be grateful. Not everyone gets to be here.
Yeah.
And I just took it as that, and I said, okay, well, no one's going to see me, but hell, I'm going to do a good job. And it was a great experience. I mean, I got to run my own stunts. I got to work with the top guy at the time that was on the show. I got killed by the crossbow guy. I don't even remember his name anymore. Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus. He's the one that ends up shooting me with the bow and arrow, or no, with the hatchet. And it was my body double. But I had a great time on set.
That's awesome.
And the silver lining to all this was, I asked my agent, I remember asking Keisha, my agent, I said, "Keisha, can you talk to the Fincannons? And since I'm unrecognizable, can I continue to get auditions for the rest of the shows and spinoffs?" And yeah, she called them, and they said, Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And I still, to this day, get residuals. I still get all that. So, and I still get auditions for them. So
That's very cool. Yeah.
It's really good.
I say something in business all the time. I say, I don't need the recognition. I just need the reward.
No.
And there's many, many, many things that I'm a part of that no one knows. And many, many other people take credit for, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I'm still the one getting paid. And
Yeah.
that kind of reminds me of that. Like,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily getting the recognition because it's just not evident that you're
Yeah.
there. You have to look really closely to see that you're there, right?
Yes.
But you still got the reward. And reward is not always financial, but
It's not.
Right.
It's not. And actually, I think the reward for me was being able to audition for future projects that were associated with The Walking Dead. But more importantly than that was actually getting the IMDb credit. Because once a casting director sees that on your IMDb, they're like, okay, well, if he can get booked on a speaking role on The Walking Dead, then there's something to this actor. And that's what it's about. It's making sure that your IMDb and your records and your choice of work reflects who you are, which you want to be a good actor. You want to take up good projects. So.
You had mentioned before we started taping about getting cut on a different series and then being brought back forward, and I think that says something about it, right? If you go on and you're good to work with, you're more likely to be brought back. What was the show you were cut from?
It was from Sleepy Hollow. It was probably the second thing that I booked, and I ended up, and it was really a weird time because at the time they were taking the incentives away from North Carolina because they had been filming religiously out of Wilmington, and there was talk that the show might go to New York, and so the role that I played was a New York cop, and so I had a different uniform. And then they ended up just saying, scrap that. We're just going to finish out the filming in Wilmington regardless of what incentive is in place or not. And so my heart just dropped when I got the call from my agent saying they've scrapped that scene because of what's happened to the incentive. And I said, well, and as an actor, you kind of know once you're burnt on a show, especially as a day player, there's no coming back. There's just really... you're not going to come back. And I just remember just thinking, okay, well, that's okay. I'm good with it. There's plenty of shows. And the next week I got a call, and the casting, and it was the casting directors, really. It wasn't even the show. The casting directors, they really liked me. They really felt bad about the situation. They said, you know what, another cop part came out. You'd be fine for, and so we're just going to give it to you.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
that's what I was going to say, too, man, is just having a good relationship with casting directors is huge.
It's huge. It's so huge. People don't understand. As far as actors, that's like the main thing I can tell an actor is, you know, what advice can you give me? Getting good with the casting directors. Get on their good side. Yeah, because they're the ones that go up for you, and they're the ones that will send you to producers.
And be nice to your agent, too.
The agent. No, the agents are wonderful. I have a great story for my agent. I remember when we were in the acting class, how JD would tell us these are the top agents to go to, Monarch, and you want to go to JTA, and you want to go to, I can't remember the other ones, but I remember going.
Monarch.
There you go. And so I said to myself, I want to be with JTA. Why? Because they have a relationship with the Fincannons. Fincannons touch everything when it comes to casting. And I set out and I said to myself, I wanna be a JTA talent. I remember, I think it was like 3 months after I started taking acting class, I thought I was it. I thought, like, I'm good. I'm so good. I walked into JTA and I was like, I want you guys to represent me. And they're like, who are you? What have you done? Do you have a reel? Do you have anything? And I said, no, but I'm going to class. I'm doing this and there. And I just remember how they very nicely said, come back.
Yeah.
Just come back. And honestly, I think that drove me to really be a good actor. Like, I literally then told myself 1 year, like, I'm going to give it this 1 year to just take acting classes, not worry about an agent, and I'll come back to them. And even when I went back to them, they still had me cold read in front of the main agent, and I did well.
Yeah.
And they ended up taking a shot with me, and I couldn't be happier. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, that's that work you put in without anybody seeing. You know, doing comedy, you build the relationships with everybody. It's like, just be a good person to be around, and better things will come. And from starting in a comedy club where I did every job, I cleaned the bathrooms, I tended bar, I hosted the shows, I performed, I was working in the booth, and then I'd go on the road and I'd be in all these comedy clubs, and I would just make everybody's job easier because I wasn't high maintenance and I could pitch in where needed. and that got me more work than honestly being funny on stage.
Yeah.
It was like a bonus, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just be funny though.
Yeah.
Just be funny.
Yeah, I've actually been doing more comedy than anything.
I saw that. I saw that on your Instagram page that you're and I'm deathly afraid of that. Like that's not something I'll do. I'll jump off of a 3-story building and doing stunts before I jump in front of a comedy.
We're doing Fright Night, and it's an open mic.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
get two
bet.
options. You can
Yeah.
be naked or
Sometimes you got to do both. You know?
Yeah.
I'll
Jump
be
off the building
I'll be in
naked.
the audience buying the 3-drink minimum, and maybe a fourth or fifth. But no, I'm good.
The thing that's so appealing about it is, you know, we're all artists are you're trying to express things, ideas, and stuff. But in comedy, you know, it's all your writing, it's your expression, and you get to do it so much. It's like there's fewer gatekeepers. So, you know, with acting, it's hard to actually be able to do the work.
Yeah.
I mean, you do it when you audition and stuff like that, but actually be on set working is difficult. But with comedy, you do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's
It's a different beast
Yeah, it's
altogether.
really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember making the transition from music. It's so funny. This is the way I kind of look at it. When I break things down mentally, when I started acting, I was like, this can't be that hard. I mean, really, it can't be that hard. Because and this is where I picked that up from was from music. I mean, from music, I had to learn how to dance well. I had to look well. I had to sound good. I had to speak a certain way in front of it. In acting, I'm just like memorizing words and just trying to be truthful, and that's it. It's an easy gig. With stand-up comedy, I don't know. I'd be petrified. I really would.
I would be petrified to be an actor.
Really?
Yeah, it's something that I've been thinking about here recently as we're starting to shoot different things for the studio, and we're doing some sketches and stuff like that. And you know, I looked at it like, oh, this would be easy. And you know, and then I knew it wasn't going to be, but I was like, well, if it's fun, then it'll be easy. And it's just it's that Ricky Bobby, what do I do with my hands thing? And that's how I feel with acting.
Yes.
I with comedy, I taught myself to be just me as much as I could, and just be fucking honest. And then with acting, it's just there's little tips and tricks that I'm picking up from Neil and being around him, but.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Well, that's the biggest. That's the biggest thing with acting too, is be you and be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time, there's, you know, if you're doing, you know, some roles, it's a character role or something.
Yeah.
You've got to, you know, make some unusual choices and things like that.
It's interesting how some things are easier for some people. You know, like with comedy, if somebody was starting and they asked me advice, you'd be like, well, just fucking go up there and have fun. But I can do that because it's a skill I have. You know what I mean? I can tell Neil all the time. I was like, just fucking relax. And he's like, you know what I mean? But then somebody will tell me, hey, just write a joke. And I'm like, I have no idea how to do that. You know what I mean? It's just, everybody has different skills. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's very amazing. Yeah. Well.
So you got a book with you.
Yeah, I brought this as a gift for Neil. I had told him about it when we were first in acting class. I wrote this back in 2011. It's called Lifers: A Secret Society. And as I was telling you before the show started, the book is actually written off of it was a dare, literally. It was just a dare. My ex-wife had asked me at the time, do you think anybody can write a book? And I said, yeah, I don't see what's so hard about it. And
I like it.
yeah.
Cool.
I like that mentality.
Yeah, and you know, and it's funny because I kind of have taken that approach to things in life for myself. I just say, hey, you know, if that guy can do it, then I can do it. And, you know, and I make an assessment and I'm like, okay. So the book was written about 3 months. It's all self-published. It's nothing like I ended up getting a publisher to give me tons of money. I just self-published, and that, you know, and that was what transpired.
So it's called Lifers. What? Tell me a little bit about it. What's it?
Yeah, what's it about?
Lifer is a secret society. What I took on it, one of the things that I preach to anyone that knows me is time, the essence of time, just how time is short, and you just don't want to waste time. And if you want thinking about doing something, like, get on it, like, because time is just one of those things that you just can never get back. Yeah. And this book is about, in a way, it's about reincarnation, but what it's about is about people who realize and they get an awakening of that they were something else in a different life. And so that's why they're called lifers, because they collect all the knowledge of all the lives that they've had. So they could have been a fireman, they could have been a stockbroker, they could have been a CSI detective. And all these lives, once they awaken, and that's a term that they use for these lifers that come alive, is that they remember all their past lives, and they use that. And so in the book, it talks about like any person of influential, like a president or whatever, they're probably a lifer. And it's kind of a thing that, you know, when you go into a nightclub and you see someone, you're like, hey, lifer? And they're like, yeah. And if you're not, then you're kind of skipped out. And there's a twist on it. You know, there's a certain, you know, protagonist and antagonist, and they're pretty prominent people in history that chase each other through the book. So
very cool.
That's pretty cool, man.
Daniel's a fast reader. I think he just read half of it.
Yeah, it's a super fast read. And
I was gonna say this will be a good read. It should be a quick one, and
super fast
we'll
read.
knock it out.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I like the idea.
When you finish it, let me get at it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. In fact, they actually did a movie.
You have an affiliate link we can throw in the thing down below?
Nah, not right now. No.
Oh man,
no affiliate link. No
affiliate link.
But they can pick up the book they can pick up Lifers: A Secret Society on Amazon or whatever.
We can get a link for that.
Yeah, we'll put it on. We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah.
We'll add it to Half a Book of the Month Club.
Yeah, there's there you go.
Yeah,
that's on his show. Yes.
Every time we mention a book, I'm notorious for starting books and just moving on to another book and coming back months later. And then we talk about that all. Every comedian only reads half of every book. So I started a Half a Book of the Month Club where every time we mention a book, we throw it in. We'll throw the link in the description and all.
Well, by the time you feel like this is half a book, you're through the whole book anyway. So you'll be fine. This will be great for you.
Well, I'll tell you, I like books like this too, especially. Yeah, this is gonna sound like an asshole comment, but I love the spacing. It doesn't look like. I think there's a lot of thought that should go into how you lay the book out.
Yeah.
Because have you ever seen how they condense things down? They try to make it, for whatever reason, they want it to be smaller, right?
Yeah.
And even I read all the time, so like when I look at the spacing, that matters to me. This will be less stressful on my eyes. It should be an easy read.
Well, and when you get into that in the book that I wrote, it is narrated by like an 11-year-old child.
I caught that. It says I'm 11 years old. I was like, did you read it? You wrote it based on that?
I literally built the book and the font and everything else as if an 11-year-old was writing it and narrating it. And so why she's 11 is because she's actually died and she's starting all over again and she's starting to figure out some things. And so it's a neat little book to figure out. I was going to say that a movie just came out recently and I was like thinking, I think they took my idea, but it was called Infinite and it had Mark Wahlberg in it. And it literally talked about that, about people using their past life knowledge to get ahead. But I think my book's a bunch better though than that. Because that movie flopped. It didn't do very well.
Have you heard of Lex Friedman?
No.
He's a AI scientist, but he has a great podcast. He has a lot of really interesting guests.
Oh.
He had a guy on recently that was, I think, from Stanford, he's a professor in. I can't remember the sciences that he's in, but it's like biology and also he studies people that have UFO experiences and stuff like that. But he's not a quack. He's a real scientist, and he's a respected scientist. And he was talking about how he believes that our DNA is the real life form, and that the DNA encodes information from all of the past. Mm-hmm. So we all carry this information that's encoded in us from, billions of lives and different life forms. So, but to me, even beyond that, it feels like everything is all connected. It's all one thing. We're all made out of the same material.
Yeah. And
a lot of the molecules in our body have been in many other things, on the planet, and it does seem that our DNA is the real life form. So we're all each other and all that have been.
Oh yeah.
So it's a really interesting idea, man.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Thank you. Appreciate
it. Is that Gary Nolan, professor at Stanford University School of Medicine, microbiology, immunology, there's a bunch of words I can't pronounce.
I love how he's on that. Like he was on that.
Oh yeah, he's efficient.
So when you're writing that book from the perspective of an 11-year-old, how much of that do you take? Were you into acting at that point, and was there any process in getting into that headspace to write from that perspective?
I think that's about the time that I started to kind of kick the idea about acting around. Like, and I think this might have been one of the catalysts to actually then say, okay, if I ever want to turn this into a screenplay, let me see what I got to do as far as an understanding, you know, the mentality and the dynamics of being an actor and a director and a producer, and how do you write this? So yeah, I would say, yeah, this definitely was a catalyst to push me to that.
Was it,
sure.
This is a personal question, was it a catalyst for your divorce? Because what I kind of feel like is your wife kind of was like, did it, what, you know,
Yeah.
do you feel like the fact that you have the mindset that you can do anything, and then you literally show that and you execute, and you're willing to do what it takes to accomplish whatever that goal is, do you think that led to a separation? Do you think that contributed to it, or do you think it was completely unrelated?
You said you wrote the book on a deer as well, right?
I did. It was on a Louis Vuitton bag. I remember
Hey.
to this day. Yeah.
So if you wrote the book, if you didn't write the book, she got a Louis Vuitton bag.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
how it worked out. That was part of the deal, and I just couldn't afford one.
she
Well, it's kind of a shitty thing too, though, right? Like,
Well, that's why I
it's,
say
it's
that.
like
'cause
she's
it's
not believing in you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got.
You know, I for a while I thought about that. I said, is she really just pushing me to write this book because she wants me to succeed and do it, and she's going to give me something, you know, a carrot to kind of push me along, like not to have to buy her back. I don't, you know, I couldn't tell you for sure what it was about it, but I just knew in my mind that it didn't take much for me to write the book. And what I mean by that, I didn't need motivation. Like if that was the motivation she thought was gonna have me write the book, no. I'd always written a lot when I was a young, and I have tons of ideas for books to this day. I do now have publishers that are calling me about stuff like this.
I just read 3 pages, and I can tell that either you had somebody else write it or you have some experience writing, because it flows well. I mean, like, you know, you can tell somebody's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely wrote it. Yeah, so I always enjoyed writing. I was a better writer than I was putting numbers together, put it that way. I was not very good at math, but I was great at communicating and writing.
Same here.
Yeah.
Any intentions or plans to write anything out? So have you written anything since then?
I have. I actually have. I have a publisher now that is courting me to write 2 more books for this series, and then another series that we pitched an idea for. So definitely have a lot of writing, but I'm obviously COVID got in the way, and so there was a lot of things that we had to go through. And really good news for me, we have a newborn. So at the age of almost 50, I have a newborn. and I know
you look much younger than that, by the way.
I am May 17th I will be 50 years.
That's
of
crazy.
age. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So we are starting all over, and I already have a beautiful 26 and a 21-year-old daughters, but now we have a newborn, and so that has also been affecting my ability to write.
I'm kind of jealous. Congratulations.
Really? Yeah. You know what? A lot of people said you're crazy.
No.
Why do you want to start all over? And my thought process and everything I thought of was, when I was young and I had these girls young, I really didn't have time for them. I was traveling. I was in Japan. I was doing everything for the music. And not that I was a bad dad. I was a great dad when I was around. But now that I work from home full time and I do a little bit of the acting here and there, I really can devote really quality time to this third child, and so I think it's a fantastic thing.
I do too.
I mean, these guys have talked about the sacrifices you make in life, and early on when you're a parent to those 2 young girls, and you're having to travel to do that, and now having a different situation. It is lovely. I think about, I had kids when I was young. I started having kids when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
They were all adults, and I don't want any more kids. But I do think about it on occasion. I think it would be a different perspective to come at it from, and I would be a much different parent than I was before. So it's great to have more time and at a different perspective. And Yeah. Good.
The only thing I think I'm wrestling right now is the thought my fiance's younger now. We're going to be married soon, but she's 35 and I'm almost 50. But the only thing I'm wrestling with now is the fact that she wants a second child. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We got one done. So you want a second? You know, and that's like the thing that I'm wrestling with.
It's going to be hard to chase a couple kids around with bad knees. You know?
How'd you know?
Oh, you're 50. That's how it goes.
Definitely.
Even good knees are bad at 50.
Definitely. And that's the thing that we're kind of looking at right now. But I'm pretty sure we're going to have another one.
I was going to say, go ahead and do another one. Life, I mean, just technology and advancements, and you look like a healthy guy. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's gonna keep you young too.
That's true.
Yeah, definitely. And that that was one of the things I wanted to say when I came onto the podcast was, I think actors, musicians, and everything else are so caught up in their craft. They really are, and you kind of have to do that to succeed, right? It's normal. It's stand-up comedian, same thing. You're constantly writing new material. You're getting your 5-minute set down. You're making sure that everything's right. But I think it's so important to really cherish and really love the things outside of the acting world, whether it's, I don't know, you're a big video game advocate, you really love your kids, you're whatever it is, just really have a love outside of the craft because you need it.
Well, you have to appreciate the moment.
Yes.
And we've talked about this a lot. When we were younger, we're both extraordinarily ambitious and, got started in business at young ages. And there's years, like chunks of years that I feel like I was just in like machine mode, and I just missed
horse
them
blinders
all.
on, and everything's blocked out.
I'm glad I had so I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm glad that I had her later in life, because if I would have had her when I was young, I probably would have missed her whole childhood.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel that, although I have tons of pictures of the girls when they were growing up, but there was times where I did really feel like I was not there. Even if I was there physically, I wasn't there mentally because I'm chasing something down, and it's not them. I'm chasing something else. I'm chasing a passion down.
And you have to, it's like a burning thing inside you. You have to be productive.
I think you end up having to do both, and I think you have to, when I started comedy, I left everything and moved into a van intentionally, and I did that for 2.5 years, and I had shock eyes. I was going to do this no matter what came up, and then I got on the road with some pretty talented comics. One of them, this guy Orny Adams, took me on the road. And he said, "What are we doing tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, I'm sleeping till showtime." You know what I mean? That's what I do. And he said, "No, and he got me in the habit of getting up, early. For me, it was like noon, and I would get up and we'd go take a walk through the city, and we'd hit a diner and we'd talk to some people, and then I saw him. He would go on stage, and he'd start with something that happened that day, and everybody would be drawn in, and he would just consistently crush in different places. And what I realized was I didn't have much to talk about. I was just talking about very old stuff. Comedy was ruining my comedy. I had no life experience. But I think you have to dive into something with just that focus, and then eventually you can ease out of it and start enjoying everything else, and that's where the real experience
I think that's really where the magic starts to take place. And I can tell you as an actor, because after a while, and when I went through my divorce, it's funny you talk about the divorce. When I went through my divorce, I was like shell-shocked. I just thought, man, I have succeeded in every aspect of my life, whether it be music, whether it be school, whether it be whatever, and failing at my marriage, I just thought, wow, this is just ridiculous. And I fell into such a deep depression that I not even the acting could pull me out of it. I just stopped acting completely. And it literally was my agent at the agency that I'm at now gave me a nice little phone call and said, listen, you have a gift, and if you don't use the gift, then it's going to go by the wayside, and you don't know. You're never guaranteed that another agency is going to give you a shot. So I believe in you. You just got to get your butt out of bed, and you just got to perform. And I think once I took that to heart, I really took that to heart. Like I had nothing else. Like my daughters are older. They have their own lives going. I thought, what else do I have left? And I said, I still have the acting. I can still tell stories. I can still perform and act, and I have a good skill. And I mean, literally, and there's no exaggeration to this. I mean, literally within 2 weeks of her making that call to me and saying, listen, I'll give you a little bit of time. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. We'll just part ways. 2 weeks afterwards. I had already booked my next TV show,
Oh,
and
nice.
it
That's awesome, man.
and it was just cascading from there, and it hasn't stopped. Besides COVID, I thought COVID was going to get in the way. Now I probably had one of the best commercial years last year for commercial work so nothing but grateful. Yeah, nothing.
That's awesome. You had a good recurring role on a series too, right? A few years ago.
I don't think I've ever had a recurring role.
I thought you did. I
anything.
thought you had or you were in a couple episodes.
I was in a couple of episodes. Yeah, recurring.
recurring,
Yeah, I guess. I think of recurring like let me be there for like more than half the season. Then
Well, that's more like a
because then
regular.
my bank account will say that I'm a recurring character.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, he's mentioning one of your lifer roles from a previous life.
There you
Oh,
go.
that's
Yeah,
right,
in
yeah.
another life. Yeah, Neil, for sure.
So we were talking earlier about just not being present and things like that. Like, this interesting thing. I think it's 2 weekends ago. We've had all this wonderful snow and everything, and like I went outside for the first time. My oldest son's 11, and I just can't remember playing in the snow with my kids. I just can't. I've got 3, and I'm sure I went outside with them. But honestly, if it snows so bad that everything shuts down, it's actually a break for me. And I can sleep. I can rest, right? And I remember that religiously, right? So this was the first time that I went outside with intention. I spent hours out just playing with the kids in the snow.
Yeah.
And then the following weekend, as things were cleaning up, I remember we went to the park, and I'm literally just pushing kids on the swing and just hanging out at the park with the kids. And, like, there's this thing, just like when I was outside in the snow, like, I feel like I'm doing something that's a menial task that it's like this is not my best use, right? It's not going to make me any money. But then I've got this other competing side of me is like, this is my highest and best use in this moment is trying to be here present with my kids,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so, like, I really, really, really struggle with that because I want to find something to be busy. And so I've been doing it with intention. Every week I'm trying to, like, find things to do and be with them in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's getting more manageable, but it's still not there. So, like, I wonder, how do you – I guess it just takes time, but you transition and, maybe at I don't think it's age-related, but maybe at the point I'm at in my life at 50, maybe I can do it easier. Maybe it takes 40. I don't know. But, like, I don't think it's necessarily tied to an age. It's just a mental state, like, how do you be present in that moment with your kids? That's such a that's a hard thing for me.
And I think it just goes back to what we were talking about is when you have a passion that drives you, you kind of put the blinders on and you're really not present for kids or anything else. Honestly, I mean, sometimes I think to myself, well, was I that bad of a husband that I would have someone divorce me? And then I start to think about it and I go, maybe I was because maybe I wasn't like the abuser or anything else like that. But if your main focus is, it's almost like you have a mistress. You have something else that you are after and you leave everything else behind.
Just taking all of your time.
And I think that's so important. I think you're right about that. Even in our craft of acting, being in stand-up, you got to be in the moment. There's no other way around it in life. Everything else, be in the moment. And because you're nowhere else, you're really nowhere else at that point. So might as well enjoy the moment that you're in.
So. Well, when I got into acting, right before I got into acting, he and I both talk about we've had experiences in our professional careers in business where we've lost basically everything, or in his case, more than everything. But I went through a really difficult time around 2013 it was like everything was caving in on me and I was losing everything that I'd worked really hard for, and it was like a domino effect. And I've always been an artist, and I've always been interested in performance art as far as an actor, being into acting and stuff like that. I've always been a creative person, and I thought, well, this is a good opportunity for me to pursue something in that, while this other stuff's falling apart. And I had a little bit of time because, most of the stuff that was taking my time was gone. And so I started taking acting classes with JD. And then as soon as I started that, I lost my leg. I had my motorcycle accident.
Wow.
After about 2 classes. And then, so I was out for about a month, and I went back and started taking classes again. And, but all that loss and all that change, and then getting into acting and feeling, because I had neglected my creativity so much too, in those busy years. And I think a lot of that really helped me. I think the art actually helped me appreciate the moment more and sort of look at things differently. And I know it's cost me money. I mean, I'm sure if I hadn't have focused anything on art and creativity, I'd be, and I'm doing well, but I would be way ahead. Further than I am now. But
the toll it takes on your mental health or your satisfaction with your life.
Right. Yeah. And I can still, accomplish the same amount of things, that I.
Yeah.
With this, it just, it was starting new, so and balancing business on top of that. So I've rebuilt myself on the business front too, to a pretty successful level.
Agreed.
I still am not where I want to. I'll never be where I want to be because the ambition, just that drive that you have to constantly be creating. And even in business, I was still approaching it from a creative perspective, but it's more of an analytical endeavor. But the acting actually, for me, is therapeutic. Or not just acting, but anything creative that I do is therapeutic. If it's acting, if it's drawing, if it's doing digital art or stand-up comedy, writing. Love writing. Writing is he and I were talking the other day about how he. What did you say? It was.
You talking about my book, The 10 Staff, or are you talking about your stuff or your
no,
writing?
What gets you into the flow state?
What were we talking about? There's a couple of things.
Something specific, though, that you like to do that...
I'm drawing a blank now.
Yeah, so like when I write, it gets me
because you
into
had said it's very similar to that flow state that you get into.
Yeah, exactly. So when I write, I get into this deep flow state. If I'm doing a long writing session, and it's almost like an altered state of consciousness, when you're in that, or if you're working on something creative for a long period of time, writing or drawing. Like if I'm drawing, that same thing.
Now you got me sitting here thinking about it.
But you have something that you do also that has a similar effect.
But instead of writing or drawing,
it's definitely neither. What is it? I'm trying to think about. Actually, I didn't think about it. He made the comment that it was similar, and I agree. But I'm trying to remember what it was about.
Oh, I know what it was. It was playing blackjack.
Oh,
yeah,
playing blackjack. There you go.
Obvious answer now.
Because he likes numbers so much, and when he's doing that, he can.
Yeah, so it checks. I can check out.
That's
so like literally, I can sit and log. So what'll happen is we were talking about the upcoming Vegas trip.
Yeah.
So I can literally sit down at a blackjack table and get up 12 hours later.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about sitting down and losing a lot of money. There's a half a point spread depending on how you play. The only reason the casino always wins is because they have more money than you do.
Yeah.
Right. But if you, there's times to execute not, but you need long periods of times for the math to work. Right.
Yeah.
And math doesn't work. Statistics don't work. You don't get to feel the full experience if you're there for 10 minutes. Yeah. You need long windows, and you need enough money to be able to sit for long windows. But what happens for me is I can sit there and play, and there's so much math going on, and I'm so engaged in it that I get like in the Zen state, and everything else kind of goes away, and I can actually stop thinking about all the other crap.
Yeah.
And I say crap, I mean business, family, life,
so things
problems.
You think about, there are parts of your brain that you use during your everyday life. It's the same reason a lot of creative people, when they're driving, come up with their best ideas.
Yeah.
It's the part that's keeping you in between the lines and keeping you alive. That's the part that's so critical about some other things during your day.
Yeah.
Then you shut that part of your brain down, you're driving down the road, and now you're free to wander and be a little stranger.
It's funny, you say that.
That's why I like staying up late for creativity. The later you stay up, the more silly your mind gets, and you get looser.
What's your process as far as when it comes to sitting down and doing the work of creativity and working on your craft? If you're acting or you're writing, is there anything that you specifically lean towards?
It's so great. It's almost like you're intuitive with how people are. But when I came up with the idea for that book, I was actually driving, and I came back, and it's so funny. But I always now keep if you look in my center console, I keep a nice little pad of paper and a pen for that reason. I've been ready take advantage of anything that comes up. I'll just scribble something, and then I put it away, and I go, okay, I got to think about that. But yeah, driving, taking a shower, long showers. I literally will come up with ideas when I'm in the shower, and I just go, wow. I can't do this when I'm dry, but I can do it when I'm wet. This is amazing.
It is true. It's an interesting creative space.
There is it's super interesting for me. A lot of times it's laying in bed in the middle of the night, and I always think to myself, well, I'll remember. That idea is so good, I will remember it. No reason to write it down. And 90% of the times I will not remember. Yeah. But then when I write it down, 90% of the times it's bullshit. You know what I mean? I wake up
it wasn't as good as you thought it was.
It definitely was not. No, that idea almost never works.
That's funny.
Well, before I get too far away from the thing about where I was going with the getting into art or paying more attention to that side of me, I've always been a very empathetic person and stuff. But when you're in business and you're just focused on business, it kind of hardens you. You have to develop really thick skin, and it's very analytical, and it's almost like you're in a constant competition with yourself and with other people, and so and you're not used to being vulnerable. You know, it's like the vulnerability is sometimes your enemy in business, and so getting into acting and really focusing more on that creative side helped me reconnect with that empathetic side of me and that more vulnerable side of me. Yeah. And so I'm glad that I did that, and then also it helped me as a dad, when I had my daughter, that I have a really good connection with her, like a really close relationship with her. Yeah. And I still don't get to spend as much time with her as I'd like to, but when I do, it's quality. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the moment. And I know what I have, know, and I think if I hadn't have gotten back in, or if I hadn't have nurtured that creative side of me, then I wouldn't be the dad that I am now.
Yeah,
and I think you need so one of the quotes I like is the sweet's not as sweet without the bitter. You need all parts of life to really appreciate the others, We have about 5 minutes before we wrap up. Yeah. Victor, you're online. If anybody wants to find you or support, the art that you do or anything like that, what's a great way for people to directly support you or just to find you and follow you on?
I think the best support for any actor, and myself included, is on IMDb. If you go on IMDb and you check us out there, our rating, will move up and down depending on who's looking at us. So that's usually a really good way to do it. I know I have a website somewhere. I don't know if I've kept it up all that well so much, but I'd have to look at that. But yeah, I think just that. And I think if you Google my name, it's nice. I'm actually one of the first Victor Cordovas that pops up. And how do I know that? Because my daughters checked me up, and they said, "Dad, you're somebody." And I said, "God, I hope I'm somebody." No, when you Google your name, you come up. That's actually come up. And I thought that's kind of funny. So yeah, I think the internet is an amazing tool, and if you ever want to find me, that's where you'll find me.
Are you on Instagram still?
I am. I'm still on Instagram. I think it's _Cordova.
We'll throw a link in the description.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that about your daughters searching online. So my kids, they know I've been doing comedy for about 11 years, and I've had some pretty great opportunities to work with some people that I loved and admired and I was a big fan of beforehand. But my kids really don't much pay attention to that. And then a few months ago, I'm friends with a comic that my kids all love, but they didn't know that we were friends. And then that comic put me in one of his stories on Instagram. I started getting texts from my kids. It's like, holy shit, you're actually doing things. So it's like, I've been doing this for 11 years.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of happened to me too as well. I when I booked the role for Outer Banks, when I looked at that show at face value, I went, okay, this is going to be a show, about like rednecks from North Carolina? What am I doing with this show? And I'm like, I'm going to play a guard. I was happy to book it because it was Netflix. But I was like, what is this show really going to do? Is this one of those filler shows for Netflix because their content's going down? And no, it was like right at the beginning of COVID. So everyone's stuck at home. And when the show comes out, I don't think I got more young people Instagramming me, texting me, and my daughter's getting notoriety. They're like, Dad, Like, you're all over the place. Like, what happened to you? And I think, thank God for Outer Banks, but I think that's where my daughters started to figure out, like,
Very cool.
I think you might be somebody, Dad. I think if you're on this show, then I think you might be somebody. And I said, yeah, I guess. Out of all the Mexican guys they could have picked, they picked me for that show.
It was a popular show, too.
It's a huge show.
Yeah.
It's such a huge show. I'm just grateful for that. But yeah.
Well, what advice do you have for any new actors or people wanting to get into acting?
New actors. Oh, man. What do you do with a new actor? Don't take yourself so seriously. Don't think you know everything. Take a lot of acting classes. Learn from people. Watch a lot of good TV. Not bad TV. I'm saying watch good series. So then you understand what the emotional roller coasters are that these actors have to portray. Because if you want to do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You got to do that. And then I think lastly, as far as an actor is concerned, a young actor, is just making sure that you do the work. And we hear this all the time. Do the work. Do the work. What does that mean? Read the script. Understand it. See if there's something in your past that you can draw from so that you can make this character believable. Don't try to sound like anybody else. Once you, what do they say in acting class? Once you put on the fireman's outfit, you're a fireman. Now, what does your fireman do about the situation?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just about being real and doing the work. And that's about it. Just don't take yourself too seriously and have fun. That's the whole reason why you're doing it anyways, is to get something out of it, some joy out of it. So have fun with it.
That's just good life advice for it, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it's been a pleasure having you on, man.
Hey,
It's great to see
thank you. I'm so grateful to be on the show.
Yeah.
Finally, after all this time that I neglected to be on here. So.
We should have reached out a long time ago.
Exactly.
I thought you were still in California.
Yeah, no. Hey, I just want to say real quick, just want to say hi to the baby, Paulina, Mickey, all at home, my 2 daughters, Tori and Lauren. Tori, actually, Cordova, you actually might run into her because she actually works a camera on film here in Charlotte and all in North Carolina. So you actually might see her. So if she looks like me and she has the same last name, it's probably Tori.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Awesome,
so-
man.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Turn on those notifications.